Hello, I'm Lucy from Bookshanks and I'm here today to talk about this one, The Island by Adrian McKinty. If this is your first time dropping by our channel, it's lovely to meet you. Please do stick around, subscribe and hit me with your best thriller recommendations in the comments please, because I'm just in a thriller kind of place. So, The Island by Adrian McKinty. Adrian McKinty is best known as the author of The Chain, another thriller which came out 3-4 years ago now. And he was a really well-established author. Before that, he'd written like 10-15 novels, I think, but he wasn't a super well-known one. So The Chain was like totally his breakout novel, and it was huge, and it's going to be a film or a TV series, can't remember which, but it was everywhere and everyone loved it. So this one has been really hotly anticipated, and there was a lot that I liked about it, but it probably wasn't quite The Chain. I'll take you through a little bit of what it's about and then what I think really worked and maybe what possibly didn't quite so much. So this is the story predominantly of Heather. She is 24, she's from Seattle, and she has recently married a significantly older and very successful surgeon, and also inherited the children from his first marriage, who are 12 and 14 and who are still very much grieving the death of their mother, who probably committed suicide. It might have been an accident less than a year ago. Not entirely unreasonably, they hate Heather as a result of this. And the story starts with this new dysfunctional family taking a trip to Australia under the pretenses of a bit of, bonding, but again, not entirely unpredictably, it's not going all that well. It's not going well from the bonding perspective, but it's also not going well because they haven't seen a kangaroo, they haven't seen a koala, and frankly, it's just all round a total wash out. But then an opportunity arises for them to visit like a private island just off the coast of Melbourne, and definitely they have been promised see some good wildlife. So off they go to this private island. The inhabitants of the island didn't really want them there, but surgeon flashed his cash and over they went. But then disaster strikes. They were driving a little bit too fast in their very big posh flashy Porsche, and bang, they hit a woman on the island. It doesn't end very well for the woman or for them, quite frankly, and that is where sort of the premise of the story comes from. The inhabitants of this island are, was there about 30 of them? There's quite a lot of them, but they are all part of this one family who have sort of built their life there outside of like mainstream Australian society or any form of normal society whatsoever, and they are like borderline cultish, and they take vigilante action in the extreme, and that's the plot, and that's where I'm going to stop it. The setting obviously is Australia. It's like present day Australia, and it's pretty vivid. It's brought to life. The island is full of, I don't know, it's well described, it's brought to light, it's bloody hot, and no complaints with the setting, the way that that's drawn. The characters are a mixed bag, I think. It's not the kind of book where, you're gonna get enormous amounts of really in-depth character development. It's like a pacey thriller that rips you through the action rather than, lets you like really get to know the characters, I guess. And there are arcs, they do develop as the story goes on. Heather and the children in particular, they do sort of, grow into each other, I guess, which is a nice element of the book. But, there was no one who I necessarily thought you know, that I was absolutely rooting for. I was rooting for Heather, but more from a curiosity perspective rather than actually genuinely caring and wanting her, you know, to win for her own sake. I didn't quite get that far. I'll come back to a point about sort of the baddie side of the characters a little bit later on, because I think there's more to say about that bit. I touched a little bit on the style, so it is like out and out genre thriller. It's super accessible in the way that it's been written. Nobody is going to pick this up and be like, it's a bit, you know, it's a bit dense, it's a bit, you know, wordy. It is super simple language, super fast paced, rip-roaring action, short chapters, tearing you through. And I tore through it really, really quickly. The dialogue, like borderlined on a bit of cliche for me at times. Obviously we're in Australia, but there was an awful lot of mates being thrown around, and I did sort of wince at the dialogue a little bit. A lot of sweeties, a lot of honeys, that I don't always buy that type of stuff. I didn't quite buy it, but you know, there's nothing really essentially problematic with the style. In terms of themes, I mean, you know, books like this don't really, you know, you're not there to learn anything deep and meaningful. You're there for an adventure and excitement, and it does deliver on that. But I think it touches like a little bit on like family relationships and, you know, is blood really thicker than water, stuff like that. And it does also just like a teeny tiny bit touch on sort of like Australian history and spirituality around sort of like Aboriginal culture and appropriation and sort of like the loss of their land. But I'm talking like super surface level. It's just sort of, you know, like hinted at, dabbled in. You're not here for any epiphanies. Frankly, you're here for an adventure, and it does ultimately deliver on that. I did keep turning the pages, and I did enjoy the ride. But that brings me a little bit to the bits that I didn't love so much, and there are two main reasons that it didn't quite hit the spot for me overall, two related reasons. And the first goes back a little bit to those baddie characters, because fundamentally, I didn't understand their motives. I didn't get why they were the way they were and why they were doing what they were doing. They were like motiveless, basically. And, you know, you kind of need your baddies for them to be really bad. You know, they need to be rounded, and you need to understand why that they're doing the things that they're doing. They're not just doing them for fun, you know. What is, you know, grinding their axe when you get down to the core? And I didn't get that level of like knowledge from this book. And that kind of brings me on to the next point, because I didn't understand what was motivating those characters. And also, you know, some of the other characters to a point as well. You know, Heather's husband, I don't know what made him who he was. I really, truly don't. And because I didn't understand those things, fundamentally, this was not a plausible book for me. And that is how it differs from The Chain. Why I think The Chain was so successful is because fundamentally it was so plausible. Someone kidnaps your child. In order to get it back, that child back, you have to kidnap somebody else's child. It is relatable because of sort of that universal element of humanity and being a human, and people, the lengths that people will go to for their own children, made it relatable, made it super plausible. You were like, yeah, do you know what? I would push those boundaries too. Whereas this one, like, it just sat outside the realms of plausibility because I didn't understand what motivated people to do the things that they were doing. And as a result, I think, you know, if this book had come before The Chain, I don't think it would have been the breakout success. I'm sure it will do really well because, you know, it is entertaining. And I did, you know, there were times where I did feel like anxious, and it is full of suspense and entertaining, but it has not got that like spark that made The Chain so wildly entertaining and successful, I think. So is it worth reading? Yeah, I think so. You know, it's not a bad read. It's a quick read, and it is fundamentally entertaining. But you know, the fear of the chain came from the fact that you thought this could really happen. This, you know, I'm sorry, I just don't think it would. But anyway, if you have read it, I'd love to know what you thought. Am I way off the mark? Do you agree? Or if you're planning to read it, or you've just got any other good thriller recommendations, because you can never have too many thriller recommendations, then yeah, please do have a chat to me in the comments. But I hope that you're having a lovely week, whatever you're up to, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.